Hello, my name is Wonko, and I decided to take my art a little more seriously last year, and for the past year straight, since 2022, I've been drawing every day. Here are 10 main things I learned from drawing every day that year that helped me level up my art significantly. Alright, the first thing I learned is, it's a simple but strong point. Don't be afraid to draw the hard things and fail. Things like hands, full bodies, legs, feet, everything you don't want to draw because you're too scared you'll mess it up, you should try to draw, actively. Failure is a key to art, and it's the only way to build up experience. If you're too afraid to fail, you'll never level up your art. Failing is also the only way to build up to what you actually want to draw, and attain the skill you actually want to attain in your art. Because a main key in art is practice, and building neural pathways in your brain of how to draw various things. So without practicing what you want to draw, like hands or feet, you'll never get better, and you'll never be able to draw what you actually want to draw, because those pathways will never be created in your brain. So instead of drawing the same thing over and over again, the 3/4 portrait that you always draw, allow yourself to fail. Try drawing a dynamic pose or two. This also goes for reworking art, or tweaking certain aspects of a drawing in quote-unquote risk of ruining it. The only way to grow is to ruin a few pieces through that. And remember, abundance is key in art. This will never be your final or best grandmost idea. You'll always have another one, a better one. The next tip relates to the last one. There are no shortcuts in art. This means that every art tip you see or video or tutorial you see will only aid in exceeding your experience. It will not replace it. So to gain experience, you must continue practicing. And not only practicing, but practicing well and observing the pieces and observing what your failures were in the last piece and learning from them in your next piece. By putting time into practicing now, later pieces will be easier and probably even quicker to create. But again, experience doesn't always come in the form of drawing. It can also come in other forms. For example, another way to get good and gain experience of drawing while not drawing is to observe pieces. Observe pieces of people better than you. Observe life. Observe references before you start drawing. Just observe anything and get those details deep into your brain. The next tip I learned that helped me advance my art is drawing from reference is important, but the same can be said with drawing from imagination. It is key to draw from imagination, as that's the main point of most artists. To have an image in their mind transformed onto the canvas. And without practicing drawing from imagination and only tuning your mind to drawing from references, your mind will never fully be accustomed to drawing from imagination, and therefore won't prioritize it, and you won't be able to do it well. So the best way to start this is to just start doing it. Use references only as an aid to your art, but don't use them as the main focus of how you get your inspiration or how you get your poses. As a resource, references are beautiful, but relying on them can actually hinder you. Drawing from imagination can also help speed up your workflow, as it will help you work faster in applying scenes you've created in your head onto the canvas. The fourth thing I've learned from drawing every day for a year straight is you should create more than you consume, or at least create the same amount as you consume. What I mean by consume is anything entertaining in nature, for example other art, television, or even like TikToks. Constantly consuming others' works will not only put your brain in a state of comparing your work to the other person's you're watching and comparing it in a negative light, but also put you in a state where you just won't want to draw. You'll rather consume, and you'll end up not creating anything for long periods of time, which will make you rusty. And the loop will continue where you keep comparing your art to the other person's, but then you won't want to draw because you're too far away from the other person's skill, but then you won't improve because you won't want to draw because you're consuming. However, consuming a lot does have a benefit, as you can be inspired by other people's art, but again, if you over-consume, is what I meant to say, and don't draw enough, you might do things like accidentally take others' ideas or just not want to draw at all, because you'll be too focused on consuming other people's art and not creating your own. Again, people vary. I still think this advice can be applied generally, as I think we all tend to overconsume sometimes and not spend enough time on our own craft. And avoiding overconsumption can help us get actually motivated to draw. The sixth thing I learned was have fun and learn things in your own style. There are a billion art tutorials out there that you can follow. Tips from anatomy to landscapes to perspective, but they're all varying to some degree, and you can't follow all of them congruently. And only following one set could actually lower your art skills, because that might not be the style your brain actually wants to learn in, and it could take you a while for that knowledge to seep into your brain. So my advice is to take everyone's tutorials with a grain of salt and have fun and learn things your own way, even if it's not the optimal way to learn. But at the end of the day, the best ideas are created while experimenting, and if you're not experimenting with the ways you apply tutorials or apply the knowledge you've generally learned in art, then you won't get the best results. Plus, experimenting and finding your own way to do things allows it to stick better and faster in my brain, is what I've found at least. I just realized I messed up the counting, and the next tip I give will be number 6. Alright, so the actual 6th thing I learned was have faith in yourself and your art and keep all delusions of where you want your art to be. You see, art is mostly a mental battle, and by being demotivated, that's already one facet of losing the battle. So doing actions like comparing yourself to other artists or saying I'll never be in that level will actually lower your skill, because your brain will start to believe maybe I can't be on that level. While in reality, everyone can get to that level with enough time and effort put in. Personally, my delusion is I will be one of the legendary artists and create some really good art. By saying this affirmation to myself, I'm basically moving myself towards that goal with every step I take in art. Unconsciously, my mind is doing that for me. Having delusions or faith in yourself and your art also keeps demotivation from getting to you or your art, as now you have a clear goal of where you want to be, and you will unconsciously start taking steps to be there. For me personally, this helped me gain confidence in my art, draw stuff I've never drawn before, work on things like perspective or landscapes, things I thought I'd be completely shit at and never be good at it. The 7th thing I learned is you don't always have to think outside the box for ideas. You can think inside the box. This may be contrary to what you've already heard, but thinking inside the box and molding it to your liking sometimes is better than thinking outside the box, as originality in itself or novelty isn't always the best for creating ideas. And by forcing yourself to be solely original all the time, it can get tiring and not produce the best ideas. Tropes that are used a lot because they've been tried and tested through time. But by shifting those tropes to your own original perspective, or doing something that you find really creative with them, can help create a story with your art. This tip seems more like an idea tip than an art tip, but it can help with things like art block or feeling demotivated because you can't think of anything original. Nothing is fully original in art. Also, another way to think about this is to try and steal stuff like an artist, which basically means in sum to steal ideas or concepts and transform them into your own. I'm not going to explain that fully, but you can search that concept up yourself on YouTube. But again, for ideas you don't have to think outside the box. If I use this box metaphor more, you could fold the box into origami, you could poke a hole in it and peer through the outside, you can mold it to the inside. Getting ideas never has to be fully original. Nothing is fully original. Got a little off topic there, but anyways. The 8th tip I have, or the 8th thing I've learned while drawing for a year straight, is a really important tip. Progress in art is never linear. And what I mean by this is one day you could be godlike in your pieces. You could draw something so amazing, and then the next day you could just draw something completely shit that you never expected. There are many factors that play into your art being good or not. Don't be harsh on yourself if one day, week, or even month or two you're not performing well in your art. That doesn't matter. In that month or two, even if you think you lost all your art skills, you didn't. Art and art skills together fluctuate, and if you're feeling like you're off for a while, that doesn't mean you'll never get back on. Remember to keep pushing through it, especially those bad months. Because once you get through it, I've learned that usually your best art is created then. The next and 9th tip I've learned from drawing every day is stick to your drawing even though you think it might be shit. This tip is hard even for me to hear and to do, because sometimes you just want to give up on a piece from the beginning because it just looks so ugly. But trust me, every piece has an ugly phase, and if you get past it, sometimes you'll create your best art. Or you just might recover a bad piece and learn what skills you lack in, or learn how to fix problems that you previously had. Usually this applies to rendering, but if you're still on the stage where you're iffy about your construction of your drawing, or you don't know about the quality of your lines or something like that, this also applies there. Finally, the last and 10th tip I learned was show people your art and manage your time wisely while doing art. Now that's 2 tips put in one, but bear with me, they're both short. The first one, showing people your art, it's a good way to let go of the vulnerability or perfectionism of art. Because oftentimes we as artists want the perfect piece, but the more you show people your art, and the more maybe critiques or little comments you got on it, you'll find A, most people are more supportive than you think, and B, you realize most of your art is throwaway. And abundance is key in art. So you'll most likely be putting out more art the more art you show. And you'll get better because you'll have an outside perspective commenting on it. Next tip is to manage your art time wisely. Mainly because if you don't have a lot of time to draw per day, and that's why you're not drawing a lot, managing your art or splitting into blocks, for example one for practicing and then one for exploring, is a good way to section off your art and improve every day without drawing actually that much. Finally, here's a bonus tip. This is for people who just want to grow on social media. That's why I'm including it here. This video is already getting long though, so I'm going to make this one quick. Posting every day doesn't mean anything. Post only your quality works and focus on promoting that work as much as possible. I am a real life example of this. I posted every day for just about the year, like almost 300 posts, and I got like a little over like 10 likes per post. Quality matters over quantity. Posting still matters, but again, if you're just posting to post, it won't get you anywhere. Alright, that wraps up my video. Hopefully you've learned something from it, or took something away from it at least. My Instagram is below if you want to follow it. I post on there, I don't even know, weekly I guess. But yeah, that's it. Peace.